Cathedral Park Dance Festival. Hi, everybody. Woohoo! Make some noise. We are the NoPo Big Band. That was a tune written by Charlie Parker called Chee Chee. It was one of his more obscure blueses that featured Jim Sussman on alto saxophone and myself, Scott Anderson, back here on the trumpet. We got a whole slew of different kinds of music to play for you today, ranging from kind of standards that you would hear most big bands play to original music that I've written and arranged. So hopefully you'll enjoy everything we are ready to play for you today. We're excited to be here. We're really happy to have Cathedral Park Jazz Festival have us here today. It's an honor, so we're going to continue on with the music and play a famous Cole Porter standard, which is going to feature the saxophone section. This is called Easy to Love. Thank you very much. Oh, I gotta walk all the way over here to get the microphone. How about a hand for the saxophone section up there? Cole Porter's Easy to Love, arranged by Sam Yesico. We're gonna feature a couple people on the next tune. This is an interesting cha-cha that I found. Everybody likes a cha-cha. My wife likes a cha-cha, she's screaming. So, this is a wonderful arrangement and a wonderful tune written by Mago Santamaria, arranged by Philip Mossman. And it's going to feature a couple of the trombone players. We're going to have a couple of the trumpet players back here. And we really hope you enjoy Sofrito. Thank you very much, Safudo. So let's go around the horn here and see who we featured. We had Eric Marsh on the trombone. We had Bob Melrose on the trombone. Bob bass, Gardella on trumpet, and myself, Scott Anderson on trumpet. Okay, we're going to keep it in the same vein. Straight eighths, as they say. We are not going to do another cha-cha, but we are going to do a calypso. So there's a very famous saxophone player. His name is Kenny Garrett. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time. I've always loved Kenny Garrett. I used to live in Chicago. I moved here about 3.5 years ago and had a quintet there for 20-something years. And Kenny Garrett's music was probably the music that helped develop the sound of my band that I had. So I wanted to bring a little bit of that here to this big band, so I arranged a Kenny Garrett tune for all of these instruments. So I hope you enjoy a little tune that's going to feature our alto saxophone player, Dan Hallberg. This tune is called Jovert.
Thank you very much, Dan Holberg on alto saxophone. I play a little trumpet back here. My name is Scott Anderson. We are the NoPo Big Band. I'd like to take just a second to introduce the guys up here so that we all know who we're listening to. From your right to left, down here on the low end, Dan Leonard on the Barry saxophone. We have Graham Coslet on tenor. Lead alto Jim Sussman playing this evening, or today, afternoon. Sorry, I missed a working at night. We got Dan Holberg, who you just heard from, on saxophone, and Mark Newbert on tenor saxophone. Trombones, we have Scott Evanson on bass trombone, John Schuler, Rob Melrose playing lead for us, and Eric Marsh. To my left, your right, we have Guy Celestri on trumpet. Sarve Scaramella on trumpet. Playing lead today is Michael Paul, and I'm Scott Anderson. We'll cover the rhythm section here for you. Holding down the bass chair over there is a Portland legend, jazz aficionado. His name is Dan Presley. I'm sure all of you know who that is. On guitar we have Hank Hadid. Dan's introducing himself today with Guy, so yeah, just meet him today. Micah Steinhill on the piano. And featured on that last tune, and basically featured the whole day because he has to play drums. He's the only one that doesn't get to stop playing. We have Brian Wynn here on the drums. We've got a couple more tunes for you. I just want to go over a few things because, you know, we're at a festival, and so I have to say, okay, come to our other gigs. So this is that time where I say, okay, come to our other gigs. So here we go. We are doing the Cathedral Park Jazz Festival today, and thank you all so much for being here and enjoying the music with us. It's a wonderful festival. It's my first time playing the festival, seeing that I've only lived here for a couple of years. So coming up in July, we have the First City Celebration at Liberty Plaza in Oregon City at 5 o'clock, just July 26th. August 27th, we're doing a battle of the we're doing a battle of the big bands. August 27th in Hood River at the Ruins. It's called Swing Summit. And then on October 8th, it'll be the 15th anniversary of this band. I think we only have two guys that are actually left from that 15 years. Raise your hand, I don't know who you are. Rob and Jim, right? Yeah, Rob and Jim are the two remaining members. So come celebrate with us at the Alberta Abbey at 7 p.m. October 8th. It'll be a 15th anniversary showcase. We'll have plenty of music. We're going to be doing a lot of different stuff than you're hearing right now. Maybe even some more original music by me. So anyway, we hope you're enjoying everything. We're going to continue on now. This is another tune written by another saxophone player that I love. As a trumpet player, it's very funny that all of my favorite musicians are saxophone players, but I think it's because I'm jealous. So this is going to feature our tenor saxophonist, Graham Coslett. And this is a tune written by a saxophone player named Seamus Blake. He's from Canada. He is all over the world playing music for the people. He's an amazing musician. This is a tune he wrote on the Stranger Things Happen album. It's a really beautiful album. There's wonderful musicians on it. This is a ballad that he actually sings on that I arranged for quintet and then ultimately arranged for the big band here. And this is a tune that is about how the person you love can heal you. It's entitled Northern Light. Graham Cossett on tenor saxophone. Seamus Blake's Northern Light. So we've got two more for you, or two or three more. See if we can burn through these. The next one is just a standard written in 1939. Jazz musicians all over the world play this one. It's called All the Things You Are, and it'll feature Jim on alto saxophone and Sarvesh Garimella down there on trumpet. All the Things You Are. All right, we got two more for you. Just enough time, hopefully we can squeeze them in. Who likes Duke Ellington? You have any Duke Ellington fans? All right, well this is not a Duke Ellington tune. However, he used to collaborate a lot with a pianist named Billy Strayhorn. And this is a tune that Billy Strayhorn wrote called Upper Manhattan Medical Group, also known as UMMG. Okay, we've got 8 minutes. 8 more minutes of jazz. Once again, thank you to the Cathedral Park Jazz Festival for having us. We're the NoPo Big Band. Thank all of you for staying around, listening, enjoying all the music. There's a lot of great bands coming up all day today. I think you're going to have a real blast. The weather's fantastic. The music is good. We're going to end the show with an original piece of music of mine, also written for the quintet that I arranged for big band. We're going to feature a few of the fellows here, and we will be out of your hair. So thank you very much for listening. We surely hope you enjoy The Loneliest Monk. Thank you very much. NoPo Big Band. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Give it up for NoPo Big Band. That was great stuff. You know it's a big band when your watch says you're in a loud environment. We got a lot of great stuff coming up today. My name is Sean Kirkby from KMHD and do digital media creation, and we'll talk about that in a minute here. But I'd like to just let you know about what's happening the rest of the day, so you can get in touch with your friends and tell them to come on down. The bands coming up this afternoon are at the end of the day, of course, Dave Mills, Carlton Jackson Big Band. It's a tribute, a celebration of life for Carlton Jackson. So we're headed that direction. Should be pretty crowded by the end of the day. So, you know, if you got friends coming out, I'd ask them to get down here as soon as they can. This festival is presented by the Jazz Society of Oregon and Oregonians Credit Union, and we really, really appreciate their help. We appreciate all of the sponsors' help, and there's a great, a good list of them, and I'm going to name off a few right now. Bob's Cold Storage, you got to have ice. You got to have ice. Oregon Arts Commission, the Jackson Fund, Miller Foundations, Laurel Ridge, Metro. Sunbelt Rentals, Cooper Mountain Ale Works, 503 Distilling, Portland Piano, Junior Lemon, Lost Productions, Soul Media, KMHD, the 1905, my friend here, Doc Rock, Kelvin Woods. We're going to be working together as we go through the day. Rose City Self Storage, KBOO, Cedar House Media, and PDX Pipeline. There's a lot of food down below, back behind the stage here, and you've probably seen it on your way in, and take advantage of that. It's delicious stuff. You know, you're traveling, you need some food from the local cuisine.